Welcome. Welcome to the Always Strikes Last podcast. This is us. This is Always Strikes Last. If you were looking for Always Strikes Last, this is the place where Always Strikes Last is.
Exactly. 3 voices, 3 time zones, often 3 different opinions. One place to get some news and ideas.
There we go.
Waste some time.
I'm Miles, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Jack and Matt. Thanks for joining us in the podcast. Oh my gosh, it's been a hell of a week, just in general. But I'm excited to be here recording the podcast with you guys. This is going to be a good one.
Oh yeah, likewise on that, and I have a good feeling about it. I think that once you guys have committed some time in your eardrums, you will agree. Because today we're talking about this momentous occasion.
It
the
is
release of the new GHB. What that means for us.
Year-long GHB, I might add.
That's true.
No more of those 6-month dabbling into random things.
No. For better or for worse, we are stuck with this thing.
We are committed.
And it's an interesting pivotal moment in sort of hobby decisions, right? Because the ITC year is halfway through, right? Because it culminates at LVO. So if you're going for ITC points, or you're going for some sort of rankings throughout the year on a specific army or specific faction, the big question is, given the new missions and the new everything coming down the pipe at us, do you stick with your guns or do you bail and start a new army?
That's exactly it.
Or play a different army that you've already owned, as the case may be.
I feel like yeah. Those of us with massive shells filled with miniatures, Matt.
Right in the truth. Got him right in the truth.
Maybe to kick off the discussion, I think it's a really interesting topic because a lot of people probably having that moment like, oh my God, the world has changed. What do I do? But there's a lot of factors going into that, right? I mean, one, all these new missions, which are totally different. For 2, wonky magic shenanigans, very possible now. And it's like a completely different game almost, the magic phase, than it was before this GHB. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, I think there's the not inconsiderable kind of permanent rule changes and the points updates that came out. Like, they were very liberal with like the ups and the downs this time, and stuff like changing the unit size for coherency to 6 from 5 is kind of big for a lot of different units, which otherwise were like at that weird 6 point.
Yeah, sure. Well, I would say it's pretty massive depending on the armies that you play.
Right, but like all those elite cavalry units or those sort of elite infantry units where they're coming in 3s, so a double unit is 6, right? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking Gore Gruntas or Necropolis Stalkers or Vanguard Paladors or any of those sort of elite cavalry units.
Heck, even Varangard.
Varangard, yeah. Exactly. How can I forget?
Yeah, the Varangards.
Ogroids, it's pretty much everywhere, right? Because those minimum like line breaker units or minimum 3 line breaker units are pretty much in every book, right?
Mm-hmm. It's true. I mean, of course, you heard it here first. The real terror of the battlefield is now going to be the all Slongor army.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I have not had a game where they haven't earned their points back yet, so I'm in agreement with that.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
So maybe I'll kick this off. I've been so far this year playing a lot of Maggotkin and Nurgle, right? And a little bit of Iron Jaws and Bigwa at the beginning of the year. I have the luxury in Europe to not be a part of ITC rankings. So I don't have to worry about, if I was aiming for some points to go best in faction for something, the penalty of switching is very low. But
stealth mode right there for sure.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I definitely feel like I'm a little bit nurgled out, especially building up for Worlds and stuff like that. So I need to take a break and do something else. I've been looking at Bone Reapers, which is kind of a fun army. I never thought I'd be a Bone Reapers player, and we'll see if I end up being a Bone Reapers player. I've been trying them out a couple games, and they are definitely a pretty interesting faction. Just the amount of buffs and debuffs and little interactions and like, oh, I got to remember to turn this on and I got to save a point for that and I got to remember to do that and there's a bubble is really high in that army.
Yeah, it almost makes you need tokens to play it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such an interesting one though, right? Because it's the closest thing the game kind of has like a Roman legion. It weirdly looks and operates that way, like kind of regimented, running around. Roman Bone Man, Broman Legion.
Broman Legion.
Broman Legion. All right.
I like it.
Broman Man.
And the changes in the new GHB definitely help your stalkers and the other guys.
Yeah, the stalkers and the Immortus guards. Absolutely. Yeah. They're feeling the buff from the six-man coherency change. And also, I think they do pretty decently on the book battle tactics. One trick with the Bone Reapers is their own battle tactics kind of suck. Just looking through here, I made cards. So I made battle tactic cards. Nice. I got so if you guys ever have a chance, this is like a huge flex, baby, but like play a Warhammer World GT, or I don't know, maybe if they give them out for RTTs, but like if you have the chance, it's a fun experience and you get battle tactics cards and they're so useful.
That is a huge flex for someone who lives in Ireland and has a $50 flight to Nottingham.
Yeah, that's a pretty big flex.
But anyway, now I'm incapable of playing this game without battle tactics cards. So here we are. But yeah, looking at the Bone Reaper battle tactics, Sculptor's Entourage, which is having a Mortis guard and a Mortis End unit contesting the same objective wholly outside your territory. That is very doable. And that's all stuff that you want to take anyway. And Trample the Defiant, which is charge a unit of horses into something and then have it not kill that thing. So have it stay in combat through the end of the turn. That is pretty reasonable. The other four of these all suck. Right? They either require a 400 plus point investment that you don't want to make, or they're just like outlandishly difficult. Like one of them is kill an enemy hero or monster with a Gothisar Harvester. Like you're just not doing that. That's not a thing that happens.
That's beyond situational.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so, I mean, it can happen. It's just the situation has to present itself.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're looking at these. And like lead into the Maelstrom. That's pretty easy. I like that. That's a cool battle tactic. It's charge a hero and a battle line and have at least one of them remain in combat.
Ooh.
So that's pretty straightforward. A lot of the Bone Reaper heroes are tanky enough that they probably will survive, especially if they get into combat with something stupid, like a screen or something where they just sit there and tie it up and like it's not a huge risk. Bait and trap is a little bit tricky if you don't have that many units, but if you can pay command points to retreat and charge, it's not as much of a penalty to have to retreat 2 units.
Yep.
And then they are really good at what is it called? Magical Dominance, because they have a command ability for it's called Dark Acolyte, and it's the first spell you cast with this wizard. If it naturally goes off, cannot be unbound.
Yeah, which is great for reliability and battle tactics like that. Still roll the dice, but not as bad for.
Yeah, but then you just cast Mystic Shield on a 5. Throw your primal dice at it if you need to, and it cannot be unbound.
Yeah,
that's totally fair.
Really good. I think to kind of step in here for anybody who may not be as flexy, may not have all the lifting power that Miles has here. There's a great website called AOS Reminders where you can actually go and get all of your battle tactics.
Are we sponsored by AOS Reminders?
No, but they should definitely.
They should think about it. Think about it. If you're AOS Reminders,
yeah, guys. If you are the AOS Reminder person, please reach out.
Yeah. So I find that, with all the armies that I bounce around with, having just the sheet with all the battle tactics on it is amazingly helpful. And while it may not be the cream of the crop, pinky up to the mouth of
making your own magic cards.
Of your cards. It's definitely helpful. So I would recommend that.
Certainly beats my strategy of staring too long at the book and eating up an inappropriate amount of my turn.
See, my favorite is actually staring at them in my opponent's turn, being ready for that turn, watching a combat go exactly as I planned and then completely forgetting my plan and having to look right back at them and then decide, what I had already looked at. Yeah. That's my favorite.
Yours is both more respectful and filled with remorse.
Yes. Yeah. I prefer, if there's a candle, it's got to be, burned on both ends as far as that's concerned.
That's for sure. Well, I'm still curious a bit, Miles. So for one, presuming you do get over like the moral repugnancy of abandoning your grandfather at the side of the road halfway through the year, are you going null myriad?
I think you do. Like, I don't know. So the Bone Reaper allegiance abilities are all one lines, right? Like there's nothing to them. It's literally one line of rule.
Yep.
And so there's really no penalty for not being null myriad. I think there's an interesting argument to be made for Mortis Praetorians because you get a free charge in their charge phase.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I also think Petrifex, even with the FAQs, is still very solid, depending on the build that you want to run. Right?
Sure.
So,
absolutely.
It's the way that the sub allegiances are built for that almost feels like it's another one of those, like, here's your battle line. You take this thing, this now becomes your battle line. Not that it actually does that, but it makes certain parts of your army more effective.
Yeah.
Right. Like the Mortis Praetorians, if you're going to have, a reply charge, then you probably just want a giant amount of, I can't remember the rank and file dudes. Mortec guard. So you probably just want like big blocks of that so you can immediately get yourself onto an objective that you're already on to overpower somebody, right?
Yep.
So like there's a lot of like hidden builds, it feels like, for those. But that brings me to the next question that I have, which is, what would you be building for it? What's your main start? Because when we go to build armies, I don't know, I think we've talked about this in the past. Like for me, I usually have one concrete idea and I know I'm going to expand after learning, but like I'll build a list and be like, okay, here's an interesting idea. Right? What's your idea for them? Is it all round?
I have the awesome situation where I was able to borrow this army from a friend and to give it a few test runs. Ooh. So I feel like I know, right? Which is
look at that. He's got the cards. He's got the extra armies, guys. We know Miles is living in the lap of luxury out there in Ireland, but this is almost too much for my little.
Says the guy who
American
routinely loans a whole army out to Charles for months at a time.
This is an act, and I'm playing it up. All right.
It's not just the grass and screen over there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's also the cash monies. Actually, the cash monies comes in all sorts of fun colors over here in Europe.
Ooh, fancy.
But let's see. So I told Rob, I was like, hey, can I borrow these to give him a try? I'm thinking of getting into them. And he's like, yeah. He's like, what do you want? And I was like, just give me whatever the net list is right now. I'm going to play that 5 or 6 times and then I'll have an opinion. And so I am on 5. So I have those 6 games that I was trying to have. So the thing I've been playing with is 6 Necropolis Stalkers, 6 Immortus Guard. I think usually has 2 units of 3. Catacross, 5 horses, and a smattering of little heroes.
So you got Catacross in there, like looking pretty, and his little
whatever. Okay. I mean, full disclosure, he's just a bunch of stairs, in the version that I've been playing.
That's all he usually is, right? He's just stairs.
I like to think of him as like an easy version of Glutos. Like, you want to paint like a cool diorama? Here's your starter diorama.
Glutos. Yeah. Oh, Glutos. I'm almost done with Glutos right now. I'm diverting.
Yeah. I'll never be done with him. Romance. Sorry.
But I really think there is some play for Mortek and the Gothazar Harvester, even after the nerf there, like 10 Mortek Guard are still great, and 20 Mortek Guard with a Harvester next to them. If you can't do all 20 Ren negating wounds in one go, half of those guys come back.
Yeah.
And then we start the song and dance of like, well, and then Catacross adds 3 guys to the unit. And then, the Bone Shaper adds 3 guys to the unit and then adds 3 guys to the unit. And
depressing death recursion. Like, it's absolutely. Okay. So you have a pretty solid plan here, but you kind of dodged. You played 5 games so far. 100% win rate, 100% closeout. How's it been in this learning games?
Oh, no, certainly not.
A very pregnant pause.
Yeah, he was like, I have to think about this answer. So then what's your feeling about it, right? Are you like, okay, I want to take this because it's a challenge. I want to take this because it feels like it's fun to play, or I think we've lost Miles to the great circumference of the world.
Sorry, guys, having a little technical. Some thunderstorms over here. Yeah.
Oh, no worries.
Oh, awesome. See, that's cool. I'll take thunder as a problem there.
Yeah. What was the question?
So what's keeping you in it, I guess, right? So are you moving over to OBR because it seems like a fun challenge? Because you don't play death armies that much and you feel like OBR is the one. What's the thing that's keeping you in it after those games?
Sure. So some interesting, like for one, I think we don't have an OBR player in our current meta who is really who is going to show up to all the local tournaments and is going to be trying to push the envelope of what the army can do at the same pace. Which is not to say that there aren't some good OBR players around. Certainly don't want anybody listening to think I'm throwing shade at them, but I want to make sure. I think it's an army that we're going to see in major tournaments. They have some tricky builds, and I want to make sure that both myself and my teammates are prepared for them.
That makes sense. So you're all in that. You're gonna forge ahead for the team.
That's what it's looking like. Barring, maybe someone else that decides to step up and take on the mantle. We'll see how it goes. But I've been enjoying my little experiment so far. They're definitely an army I would not have picked to play, I think, on my own. And they're definitely it's really cool just to try something I've never tried before.
That's fair. Well, that's cool to hear. And I think you probably have a good experience with like them being good in this season, avoiding all the magic Kazis and nasty spells with that 2+. Well, now it's on to, I think, either you or I, Matt. Do you want to go first, or should I launch into my journey?
By all means, take the reins and run this horse all the way down to the stable.
Sounds good. I'll bring the metaphor with me.
There we go. Yeah, Matt just started that sentence and just was like, "All right, this is going to go somewhere."
I mean, that's most life, but
it was a journey. Well, I definitely had a hard look at like how the army I've been running so far this season would be performing, but my choice is actually a pretty easy one. I think all other considerations aside, I don't really have the opportunity to fill out 2 full scorecards in a typical tournament year. I kind of have to stick with one faction if I have any hope of, playing enough tournaments to at least like complete one like full entry for like an ITC to see if I could do okay with it and have some fun learning its ins and outs. So we started with Slaves to Darkness, and we're continuing with Slaves to Darkness.
Nice.
Grand Host of Slaanesh theme. I will say that I don't think it was a hard choice, even all that being said, with the changes. I think the changes just make it even more fun to play them right now. So I'm really kind of excited about some of the stuff that's coming up. For one, I've already, been kind of dabbling more on the Kabbalist side than the Host of the Everchosen, because it's easier to get grand strategies, and it's kind of more fun to have all these little wizards doing stuff and to do draw and dark power to cast interesting buffs or whatever. But when they released the new GHB, the magic in there plus the primal dice just makes it extra spicy feeling. There's stuff I want to try. Like I really want to play around with a Magikazi Winter Storm summoning K-Lord who shows up and does bad things for people. And I'm just looking forward to that, because it's very easy to cast that spell, even on the 12, when you have 3 dice plus a primal dice automatically.
Yeah. I really like, and it's an army it's got so many tools in the toolbox that I think it's going to be easy to keep it funky fresh for you the entire year. Yeah,
absolutely. And I have the 6 Varangard on my table, which all of a sudden have more flexibility in formation. So it's all coming up Chaos Gods right now, I think.
Right.
It. So
they certainly didn't get any worse, and they were already pretty fucking great.
Yeah. Elikor went down in points. Everything's looking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Myrmidon list is just looking amazing right now with the changes not only to coherency, so that 9 Myrmidon unit, and then now that even the Ogroid Myrmidon.
I thought you were going for that. The Therodons, right? Like
Therodons.
Yeah.
But even now that the Myrmidon is a wizard in Kabbalist, like I was already doing that. That was already the list. And so now that we're seeing that in the GHB be like super buffed, it's like, well, why not? Right?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have so much fun with that. I keep looking at the Therodons. I think they just hit like such a ton of bricks.
They do. They do for like, they're not that expensive for what they can do too. So.
No, like what did they go down to? It's like 170, 160 right now, but it's like, it's cheap, I'm actually a big fan of potentially working them into some of my let's bring the altar list, because I love that 3d6 charge. And one of the things I used to have happen in earlier versions of my build, or to have as many, power hitters beyond the Chosen, was the Chosen would get off that, charge, and it would be great. And that was wonderful for the whole combination and getting something done. But then the power wasn't really getting utilized again, like that signature prayer, the whole reason to bring the War Shrine didn't have another good target. But a unit of Therodons in reserve need to get somewhere quickly. All of a sudden they're pretty fast with that. And that could be a great way to kind of, I guess, remove one of the weaknesses of the unit, but also kind of give the War Shrine something else to do if we want to keep playing with it.
Yeah.
Sure. I like that, like sort of a late, like a turn 2, turn 3, get across somewhere you shouldn't be onto a poorly held objective.
Exactly, or be the counterpunch to the counterpunch, where something is trying to address like the Chosen Bomb, and it's not going to stand up to a bunch of rabid Therodons whacking them with axes.
Yeah. I think they're going to be a great tool. Are you thinking you're just keeping the same kind of list as you're moving forward, or?
No, I'm tweaking it for sure. There's a couple variants out there, and then maybe this is part of the journey as I stay with it. But looking at the missions, I didn't have a lot of concerns over being able to achieve the battle tactics or do the various objectives. But I am kind of going back and forth between maybe working in the Varangard, maybe doing the Therodon thing, maybe a little bit of both, or spiciest, go down the Karkadrak Lord route, because I had 2. Constructively using Miles's now is like mine, because it's here in my basement. It's really easy to play shenanigans with them, and I think they're honestly, just to maybe harp on it, a great unit.
Yeah,
to go Magikazi with. I mean, let me paint a word picture for you guys and listeners, and this is not necessarily, full disclaimer, the best thing to do, but it's something I want to do and I want to fully explore.
This is strategic competitive advice that is endorsed by Jack.
Yes.
If you do this and you don't win the tournament, all on me. But I also told you,
absolute shenanigans. Yeah.
But again, if you do this, there's no reason you shouldn't go 5-0 on an RTT.
And if you do, full credit to me.
Yeah.
Send me a dice, please. Like a trophy, like a skull taken in the heat of battle. But I digress. So the thing about this move, which is so fun, is just imagine for a second. You have your Karkadrak Lord. He's already a spicy guy. He can do some damage. And you've taken Laoshan the Soulseeker. You cast Laoshan the Soulseeker, one of the other Kabbalists, after you've drawn a Dark Power with all the wizards clustered together. So you get that off. You don't really need to use a primal dice probably for that or anything, but you have Laoshan the Soulseeker out. Now you can bring your Karkadrak Lord in his boat somewhere else in the hero phase, of course. He's over there. He's already drawn a Dark Power. He's within 12 inches of some horrible target they've left totally undefended. And he just unloads with a primal dice infused 4d6 cast. Yes, you might miscast, but you also might not. And you're probably going to get that off if you don't. And if you get it, that's 46 mortal wounds on something. Presuming you've made it to the miscast and your gauntlet, you then can move this thing. You can do D3 wounds in the charge, and he's still a Karkadrak Lord in terms of fighting. Or he can go somewhere else if he did his business and like snag an under-defended objective because he's dangerous enough on his own to do that.
Yep.
Sure.
And that just seems so fun.
I'm down.
I love that. Yeah.
I think your original statement still stands. If anybody out there listening isn't running this at tournaments, then you've probably lost the tournament, to be honest.
Yeah, just pick up your toys.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not going Magikaze this particular tournament time, what are you doing? I mean, look at Annie Yuta and ask, is this more powerful than a blizzard?
Sure. I really like him because he is a great hero to have around for like a let into the maelstrom battle tactic, right? Because you can safely throw him into even medium dangerous units and he's going to be fine.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Like you wouldn't necessarily want to counterpunch Chosen with him, but some Chaos Warriors, some Chaos Knights, the counterpunch, like, yeah, good, go for it. Or I don't know. Assuming this is a mirror match in my brain,
Yeah, you made the most exciting variety with it.
Exactly.
And I mean, yeah, and
I had Slaves to Darkness on the brain. These are the only units I can summon in my
He's survivable enough now, but there is I can't remember the name of the spell. There is that spell that can add rend now. So
Hoarfrost.
Yeah, Hoarfrost. Yeah. So there is, there's a little bit of potential problems with him just getting nuked, which is why I do like the title of the what'd you call it, Kastakazi?
Oh, the Magikaze.
Yeah. Magikaze. Because there's still potential for him to just get wiped from just a unit that's been buffed in rend that he may smash into.
It's true.
His mortal wound potential is just nice.
He's just in a sweet spot for it, though. I mean, yeah, he's like a little under 200 or something right now, I think, if I'm not misremembering. But, he even has some built-in protections for the inevitable miscast, where he has a 5-up shrug against that stuff. Yep. And because he can actually swing that axe a little bit, yeah, he might die, but he can get stuff over the line if you do 13 mortal wounds to a 16 wound thing, either on his charge or just with a couple of those whacks.
Yep. I think it's great. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
And again, all the glory goes to Jack in your tournaments if you use this, people.
Yeah. Please write in. Let us know. Follow us on Twitter and let us know how it goes for you.
Yeah. And I think that maybe we can have a segment next time on, call it K-Lord Stories. Please don't confuse this with some festival out there. Just make sure it's restricted to Karkadrak Lords and their antics. But I'd love to hear how this works.
So Jack is doubling down on the Slaves to Darkness for the foreseeable future, and trying some exciting new builds and new options. We'd love to see those Varangard actually get some place on the table. For the people at home, Jack has been graciously providing me with storage space in his basement for various models and armies and other sundries. And as a benefit of being such a magnanimous guy, he gets access to taking whatever models he happens to be in the basement to adding them to his own little roster. So the 6 converted Varangard that I never got to finish will actually get to the table and see some glory, and I'm so excited for them.
Well, I'll make sure they have their day in the sun.
Thank you. That's really all I can ask.
For people who have never seen them or don't have a chance to see them, I will say they're especially cool because they're all converted and they're riding, I'll say, traditional Stormcast mounts. And they have a good flavor to them.
Those are the kitties, right? You put them all on kitties.
There's 3 on kitties and 3 on birdies.
Ah, fancy kitty birdies.
So like a Saturday morning cartoon brought to evil.
Exactly,
life.
Right. Yeah. I really wanted especially the it's the evocators on Draco Lions. Is that what they are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, those remind me so much of Skeletor's mount.
Yep.
That was the only thing my brain could process when I was putting those together. Like that was
Skeletor.
It's honestly,
I can just see
great.
You sitting there putting it together.
Skeletor,
right? Just like imagining like the voice in the back of your mind every time they do something, like, see if you can weather this charge.
Yeah. You incompetent boob. Take that on 6s.
Too much fun, but yeah. I know, I digress. Matt, I think it's time for you to tell us your big plan. You have too many armies to not be tempted. I'm gonna be surprised if you stick with any gun.
So I'm gonna be 100% honest. I have been mostly TOing as far as competitive events have gone over the past year, which just shows kind of how little I've been playing competitively this year. Most of that came down to, disappointment with the new BOC book. I'm not going to lie. Kind of turned into a one-trick pony army, right? And the points definitely fed into that. And so I've been sitting. My Dragon Ogres have been sitting in a corner for a while, just staring at the ground, looking at their claws, patting their feet, like a bored horse. See, I brought the horses back. We're just going to go with the horse analogies today.
Nice. I like this.
And I've been playing spiders quite a bit. Now, the points decrease in spiders is pretty rad. It's very good. That's for anybody who doesn't know, it's a Gloomspite Get spider faction. I kind of went insane and just got all spiders because this is what one does. If it's the worst faction or worst sub-allegiance of that faction, I'm going to be playing it.
Nice.
So I'm still on that decision line of what do I want to play competitively, and when am I gonna get back into playing competitively to try and get a title of something, right? Because I'm stuck here in ye old ITC land. So the idea right now is Dragon Ogres.
Ooh,
all Dragon Ogres.
So like just Dragon Ogres, Shaggoths. Are you giving yourself any leeway for other units, or is it like just that? I want to interpret correctly how monolithic this is going to be.
Dragon Ogres. So the unit is still a little bit overpriced. I've been messing around with a couple of different builds. I've played exactly 2 games with them. Both have been losses only because of I'd say probably my rustiness with the new GHB right now as I'm learning it. The first iteration of the list was a chariot, and that was before the points drops. So I got an extra chariot along with 3 units of 6 Dragon Ogres and 2 Shaggoth.
I feel like you broke your own rule. That's why you lost.
What? Because it's not all Dragon Ogres? Well, that was 80 points. It was 80 points.
Cherry in there. You broke the theme.
Yeah, I know. So on this, I now have still not enough points to add another unit of Dragon Ogres.
I see.
But currently, the last list that I played was using some wolves and a chariot, right? Everybody's really scared of the chariots until the Dragon Ogres hit them. It's really just kind of bouncing around right now, figuring it out. But the idea of the list is to negate the need to come in from ambush, right?
Nice.
So I can can build these Dragon Ogre lists so that they're consistently healing D3. They're consistently being able to. Actually, I think if I were to focus all of the healing on one spot, I could heal probably about 7 wounds in one turn per unit.
Nice.
With 1 extra on. Well, no, it would be 4 max per turn for every unit with 7 on 1. Right. So that's 1 Dragon Ogre. Over the course of the game, once they get down to a lower count in a unit, I'm going to be able to rally at least 1 or 2 of those back. And with 3 units of 6 Dragon Ogres, now not having to obey the bunchy fighty problems.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The list is
pile-in shenanigans are going to be wild.
Oh yeah, I've already made some people sad about their decisions.
I was definitely looking at 6 Gorgruntas, right? That's a 32-inch bubble.
Oh yeah. Well, the parade line, 6 Gorgruntas or 6 Dragon Ogres like stretched out like this. That's fun.
And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play them. Their points can really only go down, to be honest. Sure. Right now, they're just a little bit too overcosted. That being said, I am not used to that unit hitting like a bulldozer being thrown off a cliff. Like, they can rip and tear, not or. So pretty much everything that I've thrown them into on a charge, it's gone or it's about to go. I think I had a game against, the first game against Charles. I went through a unit of 20 ogres in one turn.
That's pretty strong.
Off of just decent rolling. They are, they're beasts. Hey.
We did it. We went there. Good.
Oh yeah.
No, and by not doing the sort of null deploy coming from ambush strategy, you are negating or you're countering the Dave McCarthy signature summon a Lord of Change, throw it across the map, and roll a 3-up strategy.
Explain this for users who listeners who may not know.
Tzeentch Guild of Summoners can consistently summon Lords of Change pretty much every turn. And so Dave is a counter to beasts with their null deploy. They are really relying on that Herdstone as a source of rend, and also I think for their grand strat usually. But turn
which is
one,
total trap, by the way. That's the biggest. Yeah,
but turn one, it's usually just sitting there in the back corner. Right. And so what he'll do is he'll take his Magister on disc. He'll auto run at 6. So that's an 18-inch move plus a 12-inch summon. And then, summon a Lu Lord of Change, which is a monster and therefore has monstrous rampages for a 3-up roundhouse kick and destroy the Herdstone turn 1. Because you're usually not he can usually set up so that there's nowhere, you're usually not able to put the the farthest point on the entire map is from each other, back corner to back corner is only 70 inches or so if you do the diagonal.
Yeah, right? Something like that.
So and you're usually not able to pull that, in terms of distance that he actually has to travel to pull this trick off.
That's so fun. Absolutely 100%. Affirm number 2 and most satisfying things to roundhouse kick the rubble behind the Loon Shrine. So that's
absolutely
that's good.
Yeah, and it's kind of a great way to out cheese the cheese of an all ambush, right?
Oh, absolutely. He did it at Worlds turn 1. So he gets the first turn, summons the chicken, rolls the 3-up. The guy calls a timeout.
It's too funny. It's too funny.
Yeah. And now it's the signature Dave McCarthy move. So, if you play him in your B try.
Nice.
Oh, did I cut out?
No, it caught you up. It sped you up in an interesting way.
Yeah.
And then,
you were being buffered, Miles.
Buffered here and there. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I really don't. I don't like the idea of the way the ambush rules work now. I think I've just talked far too much about that, to be honest. The idea that everybody is expecting ambush, and I'm going to most likely have a higher drop count than they do.
Mm-hmm.
I think is going to work in the favor of the army. Currently, what I've done just to be able to get used to the new book is put some of those I think it was one Shaggoth and one unit of the Dragon Ogres in ambush, so that somebody's scared, but that'll give the other Shaggoth and the other 2 units of Dragon Ogres just free reign, right? Because they have to bunch up. Nobody wants to get hit with some Drogers, apparently.
Yeah, you force the action, and that gives a lot more flexibility in general. And that makes a lot of sense. Well, let me ask you one question, Matt. I feel like you have the Hoarfrost there to make the Dragon Ogres even scarier in terms of spells. Is that something you're thinking of, or is that not even a consideration?
I mean, so the big problem is that the Shaggoth have only one cast, right? And the main core that keeps the army going is being able to heal. Every wound is going to be as important, or sorry, every cast is going to be dedicated to those healing spells. Because the more I'm keeping that up, the less attrition I'm taking, and it's going to keep those Dragon Ogres alive. The Shaggoth's most likely to turn 3 until the Dragon Ogres finish the work that needs to be done, right?
Yep.
So if I'm going to go into Hoarfrost or something like that, then maybe it might be worth taking those extra 200 flat points and throwing them into 2 other casters. But they're generally pretty squishy, right? So in a tournament setting, I can see that maybe put a shaman in
Great Bray Shaman,
or
a Zangor Shaman.
Oh, Great Bray Shaman.
Nice.
in reserves, so that I can just have them available for tapping objectives and holding off until late game to do something like Hoarfrost, right? As maybe a contingency. But
the cut yourself to hurt them is always a strong little move I think those guys pull.
Yeah, but the problem is you're always going to be taking mortal wounds from that. So
right.
You really only reliably have 2 of those on a shaman. And that's kind of why I generally was dissuaded from the book, right? Because instead of getting summoning where you can replace your units, I think if at any point I'm going to have to push into the smaller characters, I would much rather just play Brayherd, right? Otherwise, screens are the only thing that I really see outside of that, or the giant, right? Giant adding another -1 that's more dependable than Hoarfrost. That I could see.
And is that, I can't remember, is that just always on? It's like an aura around him or something like that? Or it's a stomp type thing? Or
if you're within 3 inches, if I remember correctly.
Nice.
So basically, he's another thing that I could hold off the board, which would be just as scary. But there's a little bit of give and take. I love it when you have 200 points to work with as just fun, right? That's when you've got a good list. It's like, okay, the rest of the core works. 200 points? Play around with it, find out what works.
It's like, just having one thing in reserve, even if it's a small thing, makes people be cagey, and it's so useful. Just having, I had Gut Rot, MVP of my army. Yep. The amount of random stupid things he would just come in the backfield and disrupt, or he would make them screen out the back of their deployment zone for 3 turns.
Which is always nice.
Which is
honestly so true.
Please spend your units far away from me for 3 turns.
It's such a power. It's such a power. If all a unit does is force something to sit in a weird corner for 2 turns, it's sort of paying for itself in a way, right? Or sometimes paying for itself many times over. I mean, maybe not so much the deployment, but I always think of that in terms of the cockatrice, right? It's beady-eyed little stare, works 100% of the time, 50% of the time, but it always causes a change in behavior.
Yeah. And even, that works for me as well, especially in the context of this list, as in like, I don't have that extra hero phase movement anymore. So I want you to come to the middle of the board. Go into the middle of the board to stay away from those edges, to keep from getting charged, etc. And then you're right within range for that charge from me from the other side, right? Or you're playing a very dangerous game of keeping right outside of everything. So
you're trying to play the corner castle, or you're trying to play some sort of like dodge through the middle.
Yep. Yeah, so it's more playing the opponent than really playing the army when it comes to it. And those are my favorite types of lists, and that's kind of why I gravitate towards them in general.
Well, sounds like you have a plan, Matt. You picked one. Miles, you picked one.
Yeah,
I've picked one. We're ready. We're ready to navigate our way through the great change here. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a new GHB. We're going to be stuck with it for a while, and plenty of new things to come our way. I'm sure if the new Maw Grunta comes out and it is so fantastic and breathes new lives into the Oryx in ways that we never thought previously possible, you can bet that I will be throwing these Bone Reapers straight into the bin and picking up the Gorka Morka standard once more. Or
at the same
whatever.
time, yeah. You're really upset your friend when you do that, but
the metaphorical bin of his house where they're safe back in where they belong.
Yes, you're going to go to his house and throw them in his trash can. Right? That's what you'll do.
Sounds good. I think we've come to a great spot, and thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks, Matt and Jack, for I don't know what I'm thanking you for. You're part of this podcast. Anyway, it just felt like a good thing to thank.
I just wanted to thank you guys for being you. And I appreciate you and everybody listening.
Thank you guys for being you and listening. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to track us down and send us Magic Ozzy stories, or raise your hand if you're the AOS Reminders person.
Yeah. Yes, please do.
Yeah, sponsor us or we'll sponsor you.
I don't know how that works.
That's not a good threat. That's a horrible threat.
Ignore that part. Bad business sense is part of that sentence.